Graduating with a law degree from St Catherine's College, Cambridge, Owain returned to his native Cardiff to take the bar professional training course and completed his pupillage at Civitas. He's an innovator in his field, having appeared through the medium of Welsh in the County Court, the High Court and the Court of Appeal for the first and so far only time in its 150-year history. Owain is also a Deputy District Judge of the County Court and sits in numerous disciplinary roles for World Rugby, the FAW and the International Paralympic Committee. Please give a very warm welcome to Owain Rhys James.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here in person. I was meant to be on the other end of a screen appearing from North Wales, but one of the pros in many ways of my day job is the flexibility, and that trial having gone, I'm now able to be here in person. By way of background, as Jason said, I'm from Cardiff originally. I went to school in Glantaf. My father's a civil servant. Mum, having originally worked in the media, was then a teacher before going on to work for charities in the third sector. And other than my grandfather, who was a prison officer a few hundred yards down the road at Cardiff Prison, there was no other connection to the law or jobs in the law or the justice system. I knew when I was at school that I enjoyed the humanities. I had an interest in politics, and I had an inkling that I would enjoy a career in the law. There wasn't at that time a scheme like Seren. There were other schemes available, and in the main they would direct those pupils who were interested towards careers in medicine, the law, or economics and business. Certainly that's my recollection. Well, I wasn't particularly interested in or good at numbers, a bit squeamish when it came to blood, so it was a career in the law that I decided would be my focus. Having, in my own mind at least, realised that that's what I wanted to do, there were various courses and experiences that came up, one of them being a residential course in Cambridge University, which I decided that I would go and visit. It meant spending a few nights at St Catherine's College, and when it came to applying for university, I thought it would be worth me putting my hat into the ring and applying for a place there. Having been to St Catherine's, it seemed albeit essentially for a two-night holiday out of term, it seemed the natural option for me to go for. I knew it was a relatively small college, it was relatively central, quite an informal and relaxed college, and seemed to tick a number of the boxes. I was fortunate enough to be offered a place, and having graduated from there, then returned to Cardiff for the bar professional training course as it was then, and then went on to work for a solicitor's firm in Cardiff for a year or so. Had a bit of pocket money to go travelling to to the Indian subcontinent before coming back to knuckle down with pupillage, as it were. Did pupillage at Civitas, where I am still practising. My day job, as I say, is at the bar. I practice in the field of civil and public law. In the main, about 2/3 of my work is representing or advising the public sector, be that Welsh or UK government, local authorities, in a pretty broad range of matters. Some of that is pure public law, so individuals usually, but not always, challenging decisions made by public bodies. It can be employment matters, so those who are employed within the public sector bringing claims against their employers, or a whole host of other commercial or property matters. I have probably a fairly broad practice. you could, if you wanted to specialise far earlier than I have. I feel that the mix of work I do gives me the benefit of a good amount of time in court and a good amount of time out of court, so I'm not sat at home just doing advices and doing paperwork all the time. I'm out and about in courts, in tribunals, having to use my advocacy skills. And it's a role that I enjoy. It's varied, no 2 days are the same, and it is, I find, both academically challenging, but also you need to be quite practical. It's all well and good knowing the answer in your own mind. The real skill of the job is often persuading judges as to why they should find in your favour. In a number of ways, imposter syndrome, I think, is something that most, if not all, people at some point have difficulties with and have to come to terms with and know how to deal with it. Certainly when I first went to university, there is a feeling, well, this isn't quite for me, this isn't really where I belong. And I think being honest, it's probably something that sticks with a number of people. And certainly personally, sometimes when you are in new courts, difficult cases, new opponents, or even sometimes now when I'm sitting as a fee-paid judge, that initial realization of, oh, actually it's me doing this job, something perhaps you've seen other people doing very often. There are a number of ways, I think, of dealing with that, and the first is just to have confidence in yourself. Don't be surprised that you are feeling that way, and certainly don't feel as if you are the only one. It's something that a lot of people, as I say, have to deal with and do come to terms with it, so it certainly isn't just you. The other lesson which I have learnt is really to make the most of every opportunity. Often opportunities will present themselves when you don't expect them. There will be things which lead to other things that you didn't know of, that you weren't prepared for, that you didn't think you would be doing. Fundamentally, I think if you make the most of the opportunities that you come across, you are far more likely to develop professionally, personally, and to find yourselves in roles, in situations that you certainly hadn't planned for and probably never thought you would be. My sports discipline practice is really thanks to a need a number of years ago on the part of other members in chambers in the WRU to have an extra pair of hands to deal with a number of league appeals. I'd never dealt with them before. I wasn't really sure what they were before I started hearing them, and one thing developed into another, and that area, that portion, that practice grew, led to working in the professional game, led to working in what was then the Pro 12 and the Heineken Cup, the European Championship, and for World Rugby. It isn't something that I thought I would be doing. Frankly, if you'd have asked me a month before I was invited to hear those appeals what rugby disciplinary hearings were, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you without Googling it. But I think realising that there are opportunities that if you make the most of them could lead to something is an important lesson to take on board. It's also, I think, important to recognise that everybody, especially in the law, has a different background, comes to their career at the law in different ways. There are, of course, traditional routes, but the reality now is that that probably represents only about half of the people at the bar, in terms of people starting at the bar now. So the route which I took, because I knew it was really what I wanted to do, isn't the route that 1 in 2 of you who end up practicing at the bar will have taken. And so if your interest is in engineering or construction or science, that isn't a problem. Don't feel as if you have to force yourself to do a law degree because you want to practice in the law. Often, if that is your interest, It'll be far better for you to study at university, academically challenge yourself with those topics and subjects that you're interested in. That is very likely to lead to you being specialist and expert in subject matters which other people aren't yet. And so if you enjoy engineering, but you want a career in the law, studying engineering may well mean that you can fast track yourself into a specialist IP or a construction dispute career. You don't need to do a law degree because that's what others are doing. The same goes for a wide range of topics. It goes for languages, it goes for the other sciences. There isn't, as I say, a standard route. There isn't a single route that you need to take. And certainly don't feel that because others are doing things one way that you need to be doing it the same. I'll close just by talking very briefly about, I think, the importance of practicing in the law in Wales. You will have a very good idea of what Wales culturally and in a societal sense and in terms of community is to you. It's probably very different to what other people who haven't spent time in Wales think of it. And having those local connections, having a legal system, having a judicial and a justice system that is representative is particularly important. You'll also have an awareness and an understanding of bilingualism in the Welsh language that, again, many others won't have. And as devolution build a body of Welsh law, and now Welsh law which is enacted bilingually, you will be far more aware of the importance and the significance of that, and you'll be far better equipped to deal with it. There is, as the Court of Appeal has noted, a very broad spectrum of Welsh-speaking ability that is required. There will be some cases which are conducted through the medium of Welsh. They'll be pretty few and far between. When you're talking about what does the law mean, what did the Senedd mean when in its statutory text it said X, Y and Z in English and ABC in Welsh, you will be far better equipped with your understanding and awareness of bilingualism to deal with that. And a career in the law in Wales is something I think which is particularly important and something that I'm sure that if that's what you want to do and you set your minds to it, you make the most of those opportunities, you will thrive and succeed at. It's something that I have enjoyed, it's something that I am enjoying, it's something which changes every day. Those uncomfortable situations make sure that you're always as sharp as you can be and thinking on your feet. It's not a job where you can sit back and say, well, that can wait for tomorrow, if you know that you've got to be in court arguing those points in the morning. But as I say, take every opportunity, make the most of it, and good luck to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A couple of questions from me, and then we'll open it to the audience, if I may. How do you stay motivated and overcome challenges in work?
It can be difficult. It can be difficult because sometimes claims and individuals that you want to do well or want to succeed aren't successful. It can sometimes be difficult because you are banging your head against a brick wall, telling people they should be doing something or not doing something, and they want to go along a different path. I think fundamentally, once you realise that you're not there to make decisions for people, you're there to advise them and inform them, that bit of distance, that bit of separation, and the ability to switch off means that you can really give it your all when you are doing the job, but you don't necessarily have to live with the scars afterwards. It's fundamentally an advisory role, but there's a need, I think, sometimes just to be able to take a step back and look at the bigger picture.
What would you say is the most difficult part of your job?
Yes, I mean, it probably being self-employed means you've got the benefit, as I say, of flexibility. You've got the benefit of, if I wanted to take 6 months off, I could. The reality is you've got mortgage to pay, and when it's busy, it's busier. When it's
you
quiet,
don't get paid.
yeah, you feel like it's the end of the world. And I think, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? But it does give you that flexibility. It means that you really are in charge, as it were, of your career. You're only as good as your last case. You can't rest on your laurels because you did a good job last year if you were hopeless last week. And I think, yeah, that certainly keeps you on your toes.
Absolutely. Okay, good advice. Questions, please, from the front. Hello.
Have you always had perfect grades and scores in all your assessments and tests?
The short answer is no. Probably the main reason why I always knew I wanted to go to the bar, and that's really what I wanted to do as opposed to a solicitor. It was advocacy, being on my feet, that I enjoyed doing. I applied for a number of work experience vacation schemes in my second year at university, didn't get anything, and thought, well, if I'm going to be back in Cardiff, I might as well try and do as much work experience as I can, not through the formal solicitor firm's route, but through the other route of doing things informally or other opportunities that were available locally. That in the main meant I was spending more time in court, because obviously you can't just wander into a solicitor's firm and have that experience. That cemented in my mind it was the bar I wanted to go to. So having not done that well in my second year, leading pretty much directly to me not getting the vacation scheme and work experience I was applying for, forced me to rethink things in my own head, and really gave me the opportunity of thinking, actually, what do I really want to do here? So I'm sure at the time, I was probably, thinking back, I was probably a bit gutted, because most people I knew were going to spend 4 weeks working in snazzy offices in London and were being paid pretty well for it, and I'd missed out on all of that. But there's, there are always other opportunities, and it isn't about being, top of the class all of the time. You need to tick the boxes. You need to do, ultimately you need to be competitive in order to get the roles. But blips, and sometimes quite significant blips, are something that people across the profession have.
Okay, thank you. Another question?
How do you keep yourself together, like stop yourself from being stressed if a case needs a sudden compromise?
I mean, I think there's part of that is experience. You learn and you develop how to handle situations which maybe aren't the same all the time, but are sufficiently similar that you can deal with them. But I think fundamentally it's about knowing your role, knowing what you're doing, being on top of whatever case you're dealing with, that you are, you understand it and you know it. So if unexpected matters arise, you might know the answer straight away, but you probably know where to look for the answers.
Thank you. Another question?
How do you keep a good balance between work and life? Having fun?
Yeah, I think the flexibility of the job can help with that. So I've got young children at home, and the view I take on work is I probably won't work when I get home of an evening, but I'll work after they go to bed, which means that most of my emails are sent at sort of silly o'clock in the night. It gives you that opportunity. Being self-employed enables you to be able to work flexibly. I think you need sometimes to check yourself and just to realise, well, actually, what am I doing? What am I aiming for here? You need to, and it doesn't come easily, frankly. You need to learn when to say no, and I think the sooner that you sort of get to understand what the right balance is, then you can manage that.
Good advice. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Give Owain a big round of applause. Thank you.
Let's think about the careers that are available in law and the legal field. Could you be a barrister, a forensic psychologist, a probation officer, or a judge? Find one role that interests you. What skills and experience would you need to be successful in that role? What would a typical day involve? Enjoy your research and good luck.